Gary was accompanying Oakland Gibson branch librarian, Ruth Salo, and her husband Ed, a physicist at the University of California Radiation Laboratory in Berkeley, known as the Rad Lab. The three on a mission, along with other members of the science fiction enclave known as the Elves, Gnomes and Little Men's Science Fiction Chowder and Marching Society. Their embodiment included authors Raj Phillips, Pohl, and Karen Anderson, as well as the founding editor of fantasy and science fiction magazine, Anthony Bocher, along with other like-minded members. This celebrated conclave, who constituted the concert of the Little Men's Science Fiction Alliance, convened on a regular basis after closing time at the Garden Library in the 2500 block of Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley. On this occasion, the three science fiction prevaricators were traveling to the preeminent San Francisco 20th Century Fox's Theater on Market Street to participate in an invitation-only screening, along with other relative groups and individuals who had received invitations from the producers and studio executives at 20th Century Fox. The invitation was to attend a cinematography preview, a before-release screening of a science fiction film entitled The Fly. Gary found that crossing on the upper deck of the Bay Bridge to San Francisco always provided a better scenic view, the automobile traffic delegated to the top deck, and commercial traffic charged to the lower deck of the span. Off to the right one could distinguish the reaches of Alcatraz, the foreboding enclave for the malefactors of conviction, the hardened criminals. Soon approaching was Yerba Buena with its endowed man-made landfill known as Treasure Island, once designated as the future home of the romanticized China Clipper, but the Navy through necessity during World War II established a beachhead, and a military invasion, the military occupational force securing the island for national purposes. Continuing on, the Bay Bridge denizens within the trafficking would have no difficulties identifying their present location, once having traversed this approach to the populated citadel of San Francisco. All who arrived on this commanding bridge were greeted by a recognizable aroma, but most not knowing the aromatic bouquet was the product produced by Hills Brothers Coffee, a redolent San Francisco welcome, its domain domiciled on Harrison Street and the Embarcadero below the bridge. On this day, Hills Brothers again proclaiming a San Francisco welcoming. Once arriving and seated, Gary taking notice that there was a rather diminutive number in attendance, a 20th Century Fox representative walking on stage welcoming the group, and announcing that upon the film's conclusion, pencils and forms would be distributed for their participation in a critique of the viewing. The large screen presentation beginning, a good-natured Gary noting to Ruth Salo that something was missing, she turned with a quizzical expression, the youth adding, "Popcorn," wondering if she appreciated his humor. With the movie's conclusion, Gary questioning if his opinion would really be of any consequence, the movie's premise somewhat of a reach. The plot having the scientist disassembling himself, transported, then reassembled, only to find there was a fly joining him during the process, discovering during reassembly they had interchanged body parts. Apparently someone thought there was a message in the script, and the casting was questionable. Gary found that he could associate Vincent Price in his role as it somewhat resembled his character in The House of Wax. There were many science fiction movies deserving merit, War of the Worlds, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or Philip Wiley and Edwin Ballmer's When Worlds Collide, these stories having been penned and then skillfully adapted to the screen. This was his thinking when he and those in attendance were asked to submit a critique of the movie. Setting aside a commentary of the plot and acting, but acknowledging the special effects, writing something promising, abridging a concordance of criticism. Gary acknowledging the San Francisco journey was time well invested, his association with this group sharing like-minded interest, and his acquaintance with inspiring authors amplified a sense of self-esteem. His perception would never be something he could relate to peers, most would lack the understanding of the uniqueness of association with these individuals, their ability to condense emotion and promote the derivative of the living equation by the means of the written word. The assembly culminating, their mandate accomplished, the coolness of the fog that is San Francisco enveloping the three travelers as they maneuvered to the Bay Bridge on-ramp. Gary, having noticed the traffic signal on Bryant Street wasn't the everyday elevated signal light with the familiar red, amber and green lenses for designating the stop and go of traffic. This traffic authority was a relic of the past, a fixed vertical street-mounted stance, small in stature, sounding a loud bell. An arresting arm would appear with either the word stop or go posted in large letters, and red and green lights for after dark, a remaining wonderment waiting to be replaced. Continuing on to the approach, the now thickening fog, giving off a mystique that emulated a scene from a motion picture, and the forlorn echo of foghorns on the bay moaning added to the chasm. Gary, having always delineated San Francisco with an aura of contingency, it was a city that heightened one's senses. It's alive, you feel its pulse, you can smell its exhalation, an entity able to nestle you in its fog-enshrouded bosom at night, and release you for motivation to a sunlit sky in the day. Gary often wondered if he was alone in his perception of San Francisco, or just maybe, it was another well-kept secret.